The second critical choice I made was to commit to a two-way agreement. And this was a two-way agreement between me and my sister. And what I learned is actually I felt, what I experienced is when you commit to a two-way agreement, actions that can start out as, I have to do this, can transform to, I want to do this. And that was my first experience in the power of committing to an agreement. So I think all of us informally or formally commit to, how about this? We enter into two-way agreements. Whether or not we commit is something else, but we enter into two-way agreements. Will you share a two-way agreement that you've entered into and perhaps what you gave and what you got?
It's interesting because your questions make me think personal before professional, which I imagine is intentional. And I don't usually talk about my husband so much on podcasts, but I feel like so my husband and I started dating when we met each other when we were 18. We started dating sophomore year of college. We met in college, and both of us are pretty ambitious. We are pretty intense, and we have pretty big goals, both individually and as a couple. And the two-way agreement that we had really made kind of informally, but it became more formal, was to put our careers first while being a team. And so he went from undergrad to 4 years of dental school to 6 years of medical training. And I went from undergrad to a year of master's and started my job. And we were in like multiple cities during that time. So we were long distance for about 4 years. We never lived together before getting married. So that was like a real big adjustment. And, it was really tough. Like I spent a lot of time alone. In my like early 20s, mid 20s, and a lot of time on Amtrak and the Peter Pan bus. And the commitment that we really made was to pursue our careers and to challenge each other to pursue our careers so that when we were really ready to start a family and when we were kind of at executive leadership levels, we would be able to like take a break, pause, and think about like some of our bigger goals. And I know that there are many people for whom they're like, that would never work for us. And, I completely understand and respect that. But we really wanted to think long-term at a pretty young age about the vision for the life that we wanted. And, I think it was really hard to kind of feel like you were an adult, like very early on. And yet we actually recently came to the end of like that stretch when my husband finished year 10 of his like medical training this summer. And to think about like the commitment that we made to one another to pursue like higher education, careers, and family, because now we have a 2-year-old daughter, and to kind of really like do it in that order, even though there were times where we felt like stuck or frustrated. It felt really, really fulfilling to like look back from when we were 18 to now and like all that we've accomplished together, because like we made a commitment to really be a team.
You encapsulate how I view a two-way agreement. The story encapsulates that because I believe a two-way agreement is when two parties come together with the intent of giving and receiving in order to achieve a desired positive outcome, right? You come together, you structure it together, you create accountability, you commit to it. And my guess is through those years, there were times where one of you might have been like, are we veering off course here? Do we need to reset? Do we need to make sure that we're still, in this, and just kind of resetting and recalibrating as you go.
Yeah. And we've had some like funny experiences. Like as a medical student, my husband woke up at 4:00 in the morning for like a 6-month stretch. And I literally wanted to kill him every time his alarm went off. And then when we had a baby, it like didn't feel that hard. And everyone was like, how are you not tired? And I was like, I'm not tired because I survived medical residency. Like the baby's nothing.
Oh my God, you must feel like you have so much more time as a family now, right? Like,
yes and no, but like
because then there's other things.
But But we have a system that works for us. I mean, we're both like, we literally send each other calendar invites for everything, like pick up child from school, like save the date for date night, like weekend away, like networking event. Like we really, I think it goes back to communication. I think for us and for me as a person, it's about how we are not only setting a goal, but communicating how we're approaching that goal, like tracking milestones, and then most importantly, celebrating successes.
I appreciate that you bring a personal story into this, because you are right. There's intentionality around the questions that I ask. I think a lot of times we focus on the two-way commitments that we make, that you make with your client for sure, that you make with your colleagues for sure, that you make with your students, with your peers. And I think it's important to stop and be aware of those two-way agreements that surround our whole lives and really help us be able to show up for all those other agreements that we've made as well.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Like those agreements that you just shared, those couldn't happen if I didn't have like a solid foundation in my personal life that allows me to show up as my best self, as an executive, as a teacher, as a colleague, as a mentor, etc.
It's awesome. Thank you for joining me for our Choose and Become interview series. You could find this episode and others at trishkendall.com. Just go to trishkendall.com/choose-become-interview-series. Or if you have a question or just want to leave a comment, email me, trish@trishkendall.com.